we're going to start with the head center here. So look at this area in your chart. Okay, this is the head center. And as we can see, it's the only center that's like a little bit outside of the body, which is really interesting in itself. This is not the mind fully. This center is actually a pressure center. Its purpose is to store experience. Okay, and this is what pressures us to ask questions in life. So each of those gates that we have up there, which only about 30% of the world actually has this colored in. Most people don't. It's the pressure to conceptualize, right? And then it's received by that ajna center below there. It is the center of inspiration. Inspiring is really breathing in the entirety of our experience, whether or not we have the capability to recall or pull up that experience. It's not awareness. It is storage. It's the gray areas of the brain. It is all of that storage. And what happens is that the pineal gland is like the guardian of the threshold. It's the guardian of all this information, whether or not it's going to be pulled up. So how does this apply to us practically? Well, if you have it undefined, like I said, you have a lot of pressure to ask questions, and the common not self theme or distortion that can be created from this is thinking about things that don't matter. We understand that human design is all about getting into our correctness as to our awareness of what we are experiencing in our life, what we are focusing on, what we are here to see, our movie, right? So, and I just wanted to say this as well. Any white areas in your chart, like the windows on your vehicle, and what they do, they're not only windows that have, like if you have a gate up there, as an example, I have the 63, which means my 63 is going to operate inconsistently. It's like a button that gets pushed on or activated, and the signal that's received, all this inspiration that comes into my life through questions, is going to operate differently depending on who I'm around, right? And depending on what's activating it. You might not have any gates in here, like Kim, right? Kim, yours is completely open. Kim's a pure receiver, right? Just as there's no structure, there's no fixedness in how you receive that inspiration. It also means if it's undefined, whether or not you have any gates in there, but if it's white, the center is white, that your inspiration always comes from outside of you, that you could be inspired by a lot of different things, and that you may need to make lists for your day or things like that because you have a lot of pressure to think about things. You have a lot of pressure to, ooh, what was that, right? Let me check this out. You could get distracted maybe very easily. So the white centers in your chart, what I want to say about them being windows, they're windows, but they're also amplifiers. Okay, they amplify whatever is coming in. And this is how the not self strategies of all the centers is created, because it creates a protective mechanism as you amplify that field. Okay, so this is all about inspiration. It's a pressure, it's a mental pressure to figure out our lives. And that's really what the head center is. We have talked about authority, right? Inner authority. And we've talked about outer authority, which is what the mind is actually for, is outer authority. The mind can never be an inner authority. Okay. But this is the start of the pressure of thinking. And the entire planet is receiving this pressure. This is part of our life and our existence. If you have it defined, it means that you have a consistent way of thinking, that there's always these questions that you are contemplating. There's a lot of pressure. A silent retreat is probably not going to be great for you because it's just like all this mental pressure. So I have a couple of statements here that we can look at when we think of the head center and what the conditioning can look like so that we can have awareness of it. This is what we want. We cannot get rid of conditioning. We're not trying to do that. Okay. We are watching it now and going, oh God, that's so funny. That's really interesting. But I'm not going to take action based on that programming of the mind computer. That's what creates the distortion. That's the virus of the mind, right? So the undefined head center has like a subconscious or a whisper pressure. What it's telling us is, I need to find something inspiring. So you might be making your decisions in life based on that. The other one is, maybe if I follow this teacher or go here, I'll find something inspiring. It's like constantly seeking, right? I need to find an answer to my questions. Where can I go to find the answers? Who has the answers? I've got to understand this or make sense of that. Where can I go or whom can I talk to find out all of the answers? So if you're leading your life with that rather than what's coming in, you're in distortion. You're creating probably headaches as well for yourself and memory issues and just literally down the wrong path. Inspiration, or really this pressure, is meant to go through the window. Oh, wow, that's interesting. I feel so inspired around this person, and then let it go, right? If you're around someone who has a defined head center as an undefined center, if you're undefined here, but you're with someone defined, you have the gift of knowing whether or not that person is confusing or if they're inspiring, right? You have a better understanding probably of what actual inspiration is, what is confusion. And your lesson here, or your wisdom, is to know what is correct for you to think about and what is important. So ask yourself from time to time, am I thinking about things that don't matter? Am I trying to answer everyone else's questions? Am I finishing their sentences, right? And just trying to get all these answers. And then the wisdom, like I said, is I correctly discern what is important for me to think about or not. So this is a really important place to start. So especially if you have that completely open, meaning there's no gates active, this can be a great source of confusion and distraction in your life. I love being around people who have a completely open head center because it amplifies my 63, my inspiration. And then I've also seen it the other way where it's like, okay, there's a lot of confusion in that person's life sometimes because they are trying to do so many things because they're inspired by everything. It's like, wow, look at that, look at that, look at that. Maybe make a list for your day if you have an open head center, just of some things you want to get done. And if you're thinking about things that aren't correct or that really don't matter, then what happens is when someone comes up to you and says, hey, this is really important, you need to like look at this, but you're distracted by something that doesn't matter, that's going to impact your life. So we're able to have more awareness around this.
I can't see that. I can't go there because I'm spinning and looping in this other. Yeah. I have a completely open and my husband has a defined. And it has really, for me, I don't know exactly what happened, but just that separation, like just being able to not be so close, so in. So I found more liberation and freedom, and I like flexibility and flow where things just come and go and I just drop little nuggets and keep going. That feels good for me. I don't feel like I need to hold them and put them in the freezer and go store them and can them, to make sure I preserve them. I'm like, no, there'll be plenty. It's
Right.
now time. So is that feel like what someone with an open head center would feel like?
Yep, exactly. So if you're inspired by something, wow, really cool, that's great, but follow your strategy and authority. Otherwise, you're going to meet resistance. So as an example, if someone's talking to you about, I don't know, astrology or just something that you find interesting, you don't want to make your decisions based on that. Or now I'm going to be an astrologer, right? Because I was so inspired, but maybe it's not correct for you. So what happens is we end up doing a lot of things that aren't correct for us because we were inspired by it, but it wasn't something that came to us, right? Because most people, projectors, reflectors, and generators, are meant to direct their vehicle by things that come from the outside of them, not from this internal mental space. So
that's kind of like whenever, because there's so many open head centers we're talking about, but when someone finds out about human design, they're like, they want to become the, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if
yeah.
I'm saying it right, but it's like that's the temptation is like, oh, I need everyone's story. I need to read everyone's story, especially in business. Like, and I'm like, no, actually, you don't get to know the person, be in the relationship, and then you can just use that for confirmation or affirmation. But when you start trying to be the reader, you actually lose the influence of who you are that they came to start off with, and you're kind of selling your own genius out to a system.
Well, yeah, you don't even get to access your own genius at that point if it's not correct for you. And that's, what Kim and I are creating here is really so that you guys can use this information for yourself to access your uniqueness, right? It's not stuff you're going to read in a book or read in the human design system or go out in a course. It's like, how can you use all these tools to actually have your unique consciousness and value that you can bring to people? So part of that is having that awareness of the head center. And how is that showing up? Now, when you see your head center thinking about things that don't matter, now we go, okay, that's interesting. And then it will start to change because then it will the mind will go, okay, wait, nope, that isn't something that matters. I don't need to ask those questions because that actually doesn't, I'm now all of a sudden in a tangent, right? Like down a rabbit hole that doesn't actually matter.
This makes so much sense in the coaching business because we get these certifications and we're inspired. We're inspired by yoga. We're inspired by meditation. We're inspired by the whatever modality we're learning. And we try to put that first and forefront of the business and market it rather than us. Their marketing is about the modalities, not about the actual results of what they can get by working with them. The importance, the value of the actual service is you,
Yes.
your genius, your wisdom, not the things that you've learned. That's what takes your clients down rabbit holes. And I know this is a hard temptation at the beginning because you're not quite confident in who you are specifically, individually, that bio-individuality. And so you're borrowing or leaning on these other resources to sell your value.
Right. Yeah. We see what other people are doing and the success that they're having. And then we try to repeat that. And it's like, we can't just be like cookie cutter. And that's not what this is about. But if you're here, this is about you finding your truth and your gift and how you're able to be a coach or whatever it is that you're doing that's unique, that's of value, which is going to be way, way better than anything you can read or learn or any of that stuff. So